Chapter 2134. What about you? Do you have any opinion? I tell you, I have seen countless beautiful women in my life. In the eyes of those people, you are very ordinary and plain. Dustless suddenly attacked, and this proud girl was really self-righteous. Dustless also knew that Temptress Magio had a shadow and was more hostile to men, but she couldn't kill a boat of men because of a scum. Good boy, you have guts. Temptress Magio bit her thin lips and glared. When she was about to teach Dustless a lesson, she suddenly saw the concert ticket in his hand and suddenly giggled. She was like a blooming snow lotus, elegant and refined. She was different. Although she was very cold and piercing, it was difficult to dislike her. Although this chick is a little proud, I have to say that she does have the capital to be proud. The crisp laughter was like the sound of nature, just like the code name of Temptress Magio as an elf, songstress. Her talent in singing was really superior. You keep saying that you hate me, but you still came to my concert. Is this a confession without being pressed? With her hands on her hips, Temptress Magio's aura was very strong and domineering. Her exquisite gem-like eyes were full of the luster of a winner. It seemed that she had already seen the scene of defeating Dustless. Don't call me boy, my name is Dustless. I am enough to be your grandfather. Dustless responded plainly. You. Temptress Magio was angry and said angrily, Dustless, right? Don't change the subject for me, you haven't answered my question yet. Did you see it? Wu Chen shook the plastic bag in his hand and said with boredom, I'm just accompanying others to your concert. This is your good fortune from your previous life. You. Temptress Magio glared at Dustless fiercely, and her silver teeth were almost broken. Can this hateful bastard speak more irritating? Who is Temptress Magio? She was the goddess of countless men's dreams. Her heavenly voice had won the hearts of countless men. Among her fans, 90% were men. However, this bastard in front of her didn't give her any face. He even mocked her time and time again. It was simply unforgivable. Humph, you'll be my slave soon. Tempting night beauty Jio's lips curled into a cold arc. She suddenly cleared her throat and a pleasant song came out of her mouth. The rhythm was very good, the intonation was very elegant and gentle, and the voice was also very magnetic and soft. It sounded quite good. However, Dustless wasn't interested in it. He just stared at the entrance in the distance. When he saw that Itsuka Kodari and the others were about to enter the venue, he muttered to himself. Time's up, let's go back. Leaving such a sentence, Wu Chen turned around and left. You, don't go. Hey, are you kidding me? You came here to listen to my concert, and now I'm singing for you alone. How blissful is that? Do you understand? Temptress Magio was dumbfounded. She stared at Wu Chen who was leaving straight away. For a moment, she was dumbfounded. As long as she called, she didn't know how many men would go through water and tread on fire for her and agree to all her requests. But what was the matter with this hateful stinky brat? He's really a stone in the latrine pit. He's smelly and stubborn. Are you crazy? Dustless turned around and said to Temptress Magio. She said coldly, I'll say it again. Your brother's singing is good. What does it have to do with me? I'm just here to accompany someone else. Anne. Do you see this? Dustless took out 2 pieces of ear cotton and said very seriously, I'll sleep when you sing later. To be honest, I'm afraid that you'll disturb my sleep. Goodbye, don't call me again. You bastard, stop right there. I didn't allow you to leave. Temptress Magio quickly chased after Dustless. Unfortunately, she was too slow and didn't manage to grab hold of his hand. Despicable brat, you forced me to do this. Seeing this, Temptress Magio was furious. She clasped her hands together and sang again with a devout expression. The sound of nature once again came out of her throat. It also had a special power that she had never had before. This is, when the song entered Dustless's ears, his body suddenly stopped. Moreover, his eyes were empty and he was very dull. He had turned into a walking corpse. Come here. Temptress Maggio smiled arrogantly. This time, Dustless didn't violate Temptress Maggio's will. He turned around obediently. His eyes were hazy. It was obvious that he had been controlled by Temptress Maggio's singing. You still want to fight with me? Despicable men are all the same. Temptress Maggio said disdainfully. She immediately hooked her white fingers and smiled charmingly. Come here. As soon as her voice fell, Dustless walked over in a daze. I'm so tired. Temptress Maggio sighed. After talking to Dustless for a while, she was very angry. She immediately glared at Dustless fiercely. Watch how I deal with you. At the same time, Dustless also walked over to Temptress Maggio. His eyes were already dull. Temptress Maggio was very satisfied when she saw Dustless's appearance. You fought with me and said so many disgusting words. Don't think that I will let you go so easily. Xiao Maggio curiously walked around Dustless and whispered, this guy is so beautiful and his skin is so white. It's even better than mine. It's hard to suspect that he's a boy. How disappointing. Temptress Maggio lamented. Her dead heart suddenly throbbed. She sincerely hoped that Dustless was a fair and beautiful girl. But, Temptress Maggio stared at Itsuka Kotori and the others. She stroked her chin and smiled, leave your female companions to me. I will serve them well. Temptress Maggio chuckled, but she didn't see Dustless's cold smile. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus more chapters, 3,000 rewards plus more chapters, 1,000 reviews plus more chapters, 500 automatic subscriptions plus more chapters. Chapter 2135. How should I deal with you, brat? You are so disrespectful to me. I can't let you go so easily. I must leave you with an unforgettable shadow. Temptress Maggio circled around Dustless, fiddling with her slender fingers. Her watery eyes flickered. She was obviously thinking about how to deal with Dustless. Kneel down. Temptress Maggio's eyes rolled and she ordered seriously. However, Dustless didn't appreciate it. Like a stone, he stood motionless. His dull eyes were empty, without the slightest emotion. This. You don't listen to me? How is that possible? You were obedient just now. Temptress Maggio looked at Dustless in a daze. Her eyes were wide open and she looked like a curious baby. Could it be that my ability has failed? Temptress Maggio frowned. In desperation, she cleared her throat and immediately sang a song again. She tried to control Dustless again and make this guy obey her orders. The beautiful and pleasant song came out of Temptress Maggio's mouth again. Unfortunately, Dustless still stood motionless like a stone. Temptress Maggio was suddenly dumbfounded. She ordered Dustless to kneel down again, but the other party ignored her. Impossible, my ability can't fail. Temptress Maggio's eyes were uncertain. A terrible thought suddenly emerged in her mind. If her ability disappeared, what should she do? Your ability didn't fail, but it doesn't work on me. At this moment, Dustless spoke lazily. His dull eyes also recovered the flickering spirit. There was a sarcastic arc at the corner of his mouth. You are okay? Temptress Maggio's small mouth was round and full of confusion. Dustless still obeyed her orders just now. Of course I am okay. If you can control me, then I would have been torn into pieces. I just want to tell you, don't overestimate yourself. In my eyes, you're just an ordinary person. There's nothing special about you. Dustless said frankly. He did not give any face to Knight Tempter Maggio at all. He laughed gloatingly and said, but your embarrassed expression is very beautiful. You. Don't be too proud. Knight Temptress Maggio was furious and her body erupted with violent spirit power fluctuations. The void suddenly changed subtly and surging spirit power continued to erupt from her body. The power of the elves. Seems like you have good control over it, but I have something to remind you. Dustless stretched lazily and explained, your concert is about to start. There are still many AST members lingering around. Are you sure you want to fight me? Just wait and see. Hearing this, Temptress Magio's expression was stiff. She retracted her spiritual power and glared at Dustless fiercely as if she wanted to remember this hateful face in her heart forever. After taking a deep look at Dustless, he immediately lured Xiao Magio away. Wait, I haven't asked you to leave yet. In a flash, Dustless blocked in front of Knight Temptress Magio. He teased her figure with a teasing smile as if he had found a fun toy. Knight Temptress Magio felt a chill and uneasiness. Go away from me, or I won't be polite. Knight Temptress Magio glared at him and threatened him impolitely. You are already not polite. Just now, you actually used your spirit power to bewitch me. This is already a provocation to me. If I let you leave safely, wouldn't I lose face? Dustless said slowly. The meaning of his words was to lure Knight Temptress Magio to pay the price. Then what do you want? Fight with me? Are you my opponent? Human. Knight Temptress Magio said disdainfully. She had to admit that although Dustless was a bit evil, she did not think that she was not Dustless's opponent. Of course, I will take it back with interest. With two strange laughs, Dustless's body turned into a destructive streamer. He flashed behind Knight Temptress Magio at an incredible speed, and there was an extremely evil laughter. I heard that you hate men touching you. I just don't believe it. I just want to touch you. Hearing this, Knight Temptress Magio was shocked. Her spirit power erupted, and she quickly left. Still want to run? Ignorant. Dustless snorted coldly. He grabbed Knight Temptress Magio's shoulder in an instant, and he skillfully lifted Knight Temptress Magio's short skirt, revealing her snow-white skin. The white and red perky buttocks were beautiful, and the pure white fat was in his eyes. The scenery was pleasant. Ah, smelly rogue, let go of me. Knight Temptress Magio screamed a few times. Her small face was red, and she struggled quickly. Unfortunately, Knight Temptress Magio's strength was too weak compared to Dustless. It was useless at all. Paw. A slap fell unceremoniously, and a bright red palm print suddenly appeared on the snow-white skin. You dare to hit my buttocks? Knight Temptress Magio looked at the shameless Dustless with a face full of evil interest. At this moment, her beautiful hair stood up, and she wanted to swallow Dustless alive. You still dare to stare at me? Dustless sneered again, and then a few more slaps fell unceremoniously. Paw. How about I hit your buttocks? You bite me? But can you beat me? After that, Dustless slapped her again unceremoniously. Paw. How about I hit you? You wanted to control me first, and now I can't retaliate against you? What a domineering, unreasonable and unruly little woman. Dustless ridiculed and unceremoniously taught Knight Temptress Magio a lesson. The slap sounded for more than a dozen times until Knight Temptress Magio's white skin turned red. Only then did he reluctantly withdraw his hands. Kill you, I'll definitely kill you. Knight Temptress Magio was like a tigress that went berserk. Her eyes emitted a cold light as she looked at the calm Dustless. However, she did not have much confidence in her heart. Sure, if you're not afraid of being hit again, then I'll do as I please. However, the price of provoking me this time will be greater than the dozen slaps just now. Dustless shrugged, and was very indifferent. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2136. You. Aren't you embarrassed to bully a girl? Her white cheeks were flushed red, and after a long time, Tempting Magio finally said such incompetent and sullen words. When her voice fell, even Tempting Magio herself was stunned, as if she did not expect herself to say such cowardly words. In the past, she was the one who bullied others. Who dared to challenge her like this? Only Dustless, this weirdo, was not charmed by her, and even humiliated Tempting Magio again and again. Girl? That's rare. Dustless's face showed a faint smile, and he still teased, from what you did before, I don't think you are a girl anymore. It's rare to see a girl as violent and barbaric as you. You. Are you still a man? You even bully a girl? Hearing this, Temptress Beauty Jo clenched her fists. If it wasn't for the difference in strength, she really wanted to punch this bastard to death. His face was already infuriating enough, but his words were even more infuriating. Hee hee. Dustless laughed twice, and his eyes suddenly became unscrupulous. He stared at Tempting Majo's plump figure. Do you want to try whether I am a man or not? Stinky rogue. Tempting Majo's face was slightly red, and she spat softly. Am I wrong? Are you a girl? Dustless continued to tease, you are obviously a tigress. Don't be too proud. Unable to bear it any longer, Xiao Meijiu was enraged. Surging waves of spiritual force broke out from her body and the void suddenly distorted. A terrifying sphere spun and occupied the blue sky. Perhaps it would not be long before it became a terrifying spatial earthquake. You want to fight just because of a disagreement? Sure enough, you are a tigress. Looking at the changes in the sky, Dustless was still teasing the girl. His plain face was fearless as he lazily said, anyway, even if AST is attracted here, those little girls won't find trouble with me. But you, seductive beauty Miss Jo, if AST knows that you're an elf, can you still live in peace? Hearing these words, Temptress Majo's expression suddenly stiffened, and her expression suddenly became extremely gloomy. She took a deep breath, stabilized herself, and retracted her spiritual power. She couldn't wait to beat Wu Chen into a pig's head. She sneered, you win, scum. What did you call me? Scum? Dustless showed a pained expression and said resentfully, sure enough, tigress is unreasonable. Just wait and see. A fragrant wind blew in front of Dustless, and then charming Knight Majo disappeared, forever disappearing from Dustless's sight. You run pretty fast. Staring at the back of Temptress Majo, Dustless picked up the bag and slowly walked to the concert venue. The whole person looked comfortable and did not care about the threat of Temptress Majo. In Dustless's view, this was just asking for humiliation. With the strength of Knight Tempter Majo, she was still far from being able to shake him. In the concert venue, it was pitch black, and only the stage in front was the most eye-catching. The stage was filled with an overwhelming number of people. Looking around, 9 out of 10 people were male, which was enough to show how popular Temptress Majo was. Sorry, I'm late. Dustless's apologetic voice came from beside Itsuka Kotori's seat. There was a small problem midway, so I was delayed. Small problem? Itsuka Kotori immediately looked at him with dissatisfaction and said with disdain, someone reported to me that you and Temptress Majo were flirting with each other. You call that a delay? This guy, hearing this, Dustless almost spat out the drink in his stomach. He glared at Itsuka Kotori. This guy is trying to teach me a lesson. Sure enough, women are easily jealous. Dustless, you actually went behind my back to hook up with someone else's girl? Yasuya Gaya glared at Dustless furiously. I must capture you and tie you up, so you don't go around fooling around in the future. No, the most direct way is to castrate you, or make you infatuated with my body. That's the only way to restrain your heart. Agreed. Taking a look at Dustless, Bazu Shixien also showed dissatisfaction. It was extremely rare for her to stand in the same trench as Bazu Yaguya. Victory and defeat had not been decided between the two of them. How could they let an outsider beat them to it? I think so too. Night Sword God Toka also came over to join in the fun. Ling Yin taught me a lot of ways to coax men. I must try them out someday. What nonsense are you talking about? Shut up. Dustless's face darkened, and he scolded angrily, that seductress Majo is a lesbian. She is only interested in girls. The boys who talk to her are more annoying than cockroaches. In desperation, Dustless could only tell the process and the end of the matter, and all the details in the middle. This is bad. Murasame Rain frowned, staring at the surrounding environment, and said uneasily, "Dustless offended seductress Meiji, and we are now in the venue of her concert. This is her territory. As long as seductress Meiji greets us, we will be in danger. She doesn't have the guts." Dustless's mouth raised a faint arc. Seductress Meiji thought of him as a jinx and stayed away from him, let alone provoke him. "I'm afraid that the word dustless will become her nightmare. Maybe when she has a nightmare in the future, she will meet Dustless's annoying face. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates." Chapter 2137. She doesn't have the guts. The corner of Dustless's mouth raised a faint arc. He was full of confidence. Tempting Knight Meiji to treat him as a jinx and stay away from him, let alone provoke him. "I'm afraid that the words dustless will become her nightmare. Maybe when she has nightmares in the future, she will meet Dustless's annoying face." Tempting Knight Meiji herself hates men very much, even more than cockroaches. The reason is actually very simple. When Tempting Knight Meiji became famous, some entertainment companies wanted to use the unspoken rules on her, but Tempting Knight Meiji resolutely refused. Some entertainment companies were unwilling to discredit Tempting Knight Meiji, causing her to be condemned by the public. It was in this moment of worry that Tempting Knight Meiji obtained the powerful power of the elf and resolved this crisis. Since then, she has become extremely hateful of humans. Although she deserves sympathy, she can't hate all the men in the world because of a group of scumbags. She is unreasonable. Dustless muttered to himself, "Let's just go with the flow. You can watch the concert in peace." Dustless waved his hand and gave everyone a comforting look. At the same time, all the lights on the stage were shining. Tempting Knight Meiji and her dance and singing partners were standing on the stage very elegantly. She looks, but she is somewhat beautiful. No wonder she is so arrogant. Dustless stared at the girl for a moment. When he met Tempting Knight Meiji just now, she was not dressed up. She was very casual. It was just an ordinary school uniform, but it was already very outstanding. Now, Tempting Knight Meiji was wearing a noble dress. She was like a fairy who had fallen to the mortal world. She was beautiful and moving. Her big eyes were very smart. Her delicate little face was white and flawless. She was very sacred. "Hello, everyone. I am Tempting Knight Meiji. Welcome to my concert. Thank you for your long-term support. Today is a special day." "Thank you." Tempting Knight Meiji gently lifted her dress and immediately bowed with a very elegant expression. There was a comfortable smile on her face. She was very kind and gentle. There was a feeling that one couldn't help but want to open their hearts. Is this still the seductive Meiji? When Dustless saw the girl with a smile on her face, he was speechless. He sighed that the showbiz circle was really deep, and people who were too shallow were not suitable for it. When she met Dustless, Knight Temptress Meiji had a humiliating expression. Now, the speed of her face change really made Dustless stunned. He had to raise his middle finger to Knight Temptress Meiji. The speed at which he changed his expression was faster than flipping through a book. So, on this special day, today's concert will be different from the past. In the following time, I will be inviting my fans to sing with me on stage. Temptress Meiji's shocking revelation on the stage immediately caused countless male compatriots to cheer. The cheers were loud and they all screamed Temptress Meiji's name. A bunch of brainless idiots. To Temptress Meiji, "You guys are like cockroaches. No, you guys are even more annoying than cockroaches." Seeing this scene, Dustless curled his lips in disdain and sneered, "Don't think too much about it. Seducer Meiji hates men so much. Why would she sing with you? It's just wishful thinking." Dustless bowed his head and muttered to himself. In fact, he couldn't figure out the purpose of Temptress Meiji. For this proud and eccentric woman, Dustless was actually quite helpless. Do you think she will take the opportunity to trouble us? Murasame Ling Yin looked over and frowned and said, "I have investigated the information of Temptress Meiji. This kind of thing has never happened before. This time it's a bit weird. You offended her before. Maybe this is a deliberate revenge. Revenge? Dustless heard the words and laughed twice. I don't care. Let her do it. Anyway, she doesn't regret it. The little girl knows the price. You, Mirasame Ling Een gave a big supercilious look. She also had a headache about this. Dustless's temper was so casual. So. Now, please, at this moment, Temptress Meijio suddenly announced loudly. Her moving voice was like delicious honey exuding a tempting fragrance, attracting everyone's attention in an instant. I'd like to see what sort of trouble you're planning to cause. Dustless's sight also looked over. In fact, he was really a little weak in his heart. He could fight, but singing, I hope you don't do anything stupid, Temptress Meijio. Dustless muttered in his heart. He immediately stopped looking at Temptress Meijio and closed his eyes to rest calmly. But at the moment when Dustless closed his eyes, Dustless suddenly felt a pair of malicious eyes staring at him. He subconsciously opened his eyes and suddenly saw a pair of exquisite eyes like brilliant gems. This guy. Is he really going to make me lose face? Dustless's mouth twitched a few times. His eyes looked at each other and found that the person who was looking at him maliciously was Temptress Meijio herself. She raised the corners of her thin lips high, and a victorious smile hung on her charming face. Her quick-witted eyes were full of craftiness, and she looked exactly like a mischievous elf. Could it be that she really wants me to sing with her? Dustless frowned and asked. For his singing skills, Dustless naturally knew that he was tone-deaf. Before he crossed over, he went to KTV with his friends to sing and made a lot of jokes, so Dustless had always been a little tired of singing. If he sang with Temptress Meijio this time, he would inevitably become the target of public criticism, and his lifetime reputation would be ruined. Ha ha ha, Itsuka Kodari and others suddenly chuckled and looked at Dustless jokingly. At this moment, Dustless's expression was particularly attractive in their eyes. After all, it was the first time that they saw Dustless so depressed. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2138. Ha ha ha, Itsuka Kodari and the others giggled and looked at Dustless mockingly. When they looked up, they saw Dustless's gloomy face. It was the first time they saw Dustless so annoyed. What are you laughing at? Do you want me to beat all of you up? Wuchen glanced at the girls angrily. His heart was hazy. His gloomy eyes stared at the Temptress Meijio. He sincerely hoped that this little girl would not act recklessly. He was good at fighting and killing, but when it came to singing, Dustless wasn't perfect. Although he knew a lot, he wasn't that good at singing. The song that Meijio sang was definitely in Japanese. Dustless wasn't good at it. He had never heard of it before. She was purposely making things difficult for Dustless. However, since Meijio had made her move, Dustless had no choice but to take it all on. Now, let's welcome number 128 to the stage and sing with me. Meijio's crisp voice spread. The audience was as excited as if they had taken drugs. Everyone looked at the seat number excitedly. Damn it, it's not me. Too bad, my goddess is going to sing with someone else. Who is that person? Change seats with me, I'll pay you 1 billion yen. The audience cried out and cursed the lucky number 128. Some people even said that they would pay a lot of money to buy number 128. What's your number? Itsuka Kodari looked at Toka and the others and asked. I'm number 126, Yatsuka said. I'm number 129, Toka Yatsuka said. I'm number 127, Yatsuka said after looking at the seat number under her butt. As soon as she said that, everyone looked at Dustless strangely. He was sitting between Toka and Yatsuka. There was no doubt that he was number 128. This little brat who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth actually dared to scheme against me. Playing with fire will get burned. Even Wu Chen, who had been fixed, was frowning at this moment. His heart, which had not fluctuated for hundreds of years, splashed a faint ripple. Even if tempting night beauty Jiao was 20 or 30 meters away, Wu Chen could clearly see her smiling face. Audience number 128, you're so handsome. I'm offering myself to you. Seductive night beauty looked at Wu Chen playfully. Her watery eyes were full of tender feelings. Her charming eyes were like silk. She had a posture of offering herself to him. Kill him, this bastard deserves to die. Countless male fans had their dreams shattered. Each of them was like an angry tiger, glaring at Dustless with an unfriendly look, as if they wanted to perish together and go to hell together. You are blessed, Wu Chen. You have a lot of luck with women. Murasame's voice said. Humph, coquettish fox, you're so blatant. Although Murasame Rain had a gloating expression, the other women all showed dissatisfied expressions. They looked at the seductress Mei Jiao on the stage very unhappily, and they also looked at Wu Chen with resentment. That meant, you said before that you had nothing to do with the seductress Mei Jiao, and you were even an enemy, but now she invited you to sing on the same stage, and you still dare to say that there was no scandal? At the same time, all the audience's eyes were focused on Dustless's head. Everyone was burning with jealousy. They couldn't wait to tear Dustless into pieces. Well, this kid was so lucky. You idiots, she deliberately messed with me and retaliated against me for humiliating her before. This Mei Jiao really knows how to play. She made me the target of public criticism all of a sudden. Dustless found that countless men were looking at him with unkind eyes. They couldn't wait to swallow him alive. He complained incessantly, sighing that he was smart all his life, but now he was stupid. He didn't expect to be defeated by Mei Jiao this time. Besides, not to mention the male audience, even Yadakami and Toka were staring at Dustless angrily. They were obviously complaining that Dustless went out to attract women. Your private life is too unrestrained. You need to control it. Itsuka Kotori was the first to speak. Control my ass. I didn't do anything. I'm living a pure life like a monk. Dustless looked at Itsuka Kotori and complained, also, didn't you want me to be the conqueror god? Why did you change your mind? Didn't you want me to conquer fairies every day? I'm trying to persuade you on behalf of Toka and Toka. Itsuka Kotori glared at Dustless and sat down without saying anything. Humph, Mei Jiao, since you want to play, I'll play with you. Just don't cry. At this point, Wu Chen was no longer entangled. He restrained his complicated thoughts. Under the astonishment of countless people, he calmly walked out of the auditorium and calmly walked to the stage. You want to fight with me? I'll make you cry this time. Mei Jiao was stunned for a second and then smiled brightly. She thought Dustless would be scared, but he only hesitated for a second and then walked up to the stage calmly. That was the best outcome. She could embarrass Dustless and make Dustless the public enemy of her fans. He would never have a peaceful life in the future. Thank you for your cooperation, audience number 128. Mei Jiao had a beautiful smile on her face. When she saw Dustless walk up to her, she whispered, Kid, just you wait. I won't forgive you for what you did before. The show is about to begin. After being spanked by Dustless, Mei Jiao, who hated men, couldn't take it anymore. It's up to you. Anyway, I don't care. I'll take whatever moves you have. Wu Chen responded casually. He immediately took the microphone sent by Night Tempter Mei Jiao with a calm expression. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus more chapters, 3,000 rewards plus more chapters, 1,000 comments plus more chapters, 500 automatic subscriptions plus more chapters. Chapter 2139. Damn it, why is this guy asking for a beating? Whoever kills him for me, I'll give him 1 billion yen. Me too, my goddess has been defiled by a pig. Why is that brat so lucky? What god does he believe in? I'll believe in him in the future. That's right, because Xiao Mei Jiao had said some ambiguous words to Dustless, it caused all the male compatriots to complain about Dustless. Everyone stared at him with extreme displeasure, with a ferocious look, as if they wanted to rush onto the stage and beat up Dustless. This brat actually defiled their goddess. 10,000 deaths would not be enough to absolve him. Your fans are really crazy. But are you planning to use them to deal with me? What a joke. As an elf, I can't do anything to you, let alone this group of people. It's really funny, children are children. Dustless's cheeks drooped, his lowered gaze spread around, and secretly clenched his fists. If there was an idiot who didn't know what was good for him, he didn't mind teaching him how to behave. No, Xiao Meijio was tempted to approach Dustless. Under the gaze of countless burning eyes, she was very close to Dustless's cheek. She gently blew a breath of hot air on his face, and said with a smile full of admiration, "It's because your charm is too great, my dear. I can't help but fall in love with you." These words were like igniting a barrel of gunpowder, and the explosive atmosphere of the entire concert reached its peak. Damn it, whoever kills that brat, I'll give 10 billion yen. I really regret not bringing the guns that I secretly hid at home. When the concert is over, I'll make him disappear from this world. The male compatriots wailed angrily, glaring at Dustless with murderous eyes, as if Dustless had once killed their biological parents. It had to be said that once the groupies went crazy, they were really terrifying. Even if it was a mountain of knives and a sea of fire, they didn't mind giving it a try. A bunch of idiots. How could they be so easily manipulated? Can't they see that this brat is doing it on purpose? Taking in everyone's gaze, Dustless secretly scolded that there were idiots every year, but there were especially many today. Night Beauty 9 was a lesbian and hated men very much. She must have said that she was infatuated with Dustless on purpose. Her purpose was to help Dustless attract hatred. Ha ha ha. This is going to be a good show. Temptress Meijio smiled coquettishly. Her charming face was filled with schadenfreude. Looking at the angry male audience, she was secretly pleased. She was sure that if she added fuel to the fire, this group of people would rush up and beat up Dustless. Do you feel happy about using your fans? Do you feel a sense of accomplishment? Dustless stared at the face in front of him as he asked in a flat tone. Looking at Dustless's eyes, Night Beauty 9 suddenly felt very cold. Looking at Dustless, she had a strange illusion that she was talking to an ice cube. His eyes were calm and filled with endless indifference. Are you admitting defeat? Taking a deep breath, Night Beauty 9 suppressed the throbbing in her heart and asked, "If you admit defeat, I will let you go now, but from now on, you will be my slave, Dustless. No, you will be number 001. Are you qualified? Those who dare to talk to me like this have all become a pair of bones. Do you think your end will be better than theirs?" The corners of Dustless's mouth curled up slightly, and he asked with contempt. This arrogant girl was too self-righteous. She was just an elf, and she wanted him to surrender. She was simply delusional. In other words, you refuse my conditions? Then don't regret it. Now is my home ground. I can make you the target of public criticism at any time. Night Beauty 9 smiled dangerously, like a fox's smile. She took a deep look at Dustless, and then looked at the tens of thousands of viewers. Obviously, she came up with some bad ideas. Does this guy really think that I am a soft persimmon that can be pinched at will? Dustless frowned slightly, and the corner of his mouth raised a treacherous smile. He laughed in his heart. Night Beauty 9, since you want to play, I will accompany you to the end. Just don't cry in the end. Cough cough cough. Today, in front of all my fans, I want to announce a very serious decision that is related to the second half of my life. Night Tempter Meijio held the microphone and her soft voice resounded through the entire venue. Under everyone's gaze, Night Tempter Meijio finally looked at the indifferent and old-fashioned Wu Chen and laughed secretly. Boy, I'll let you bear the consequences. My fans will definitely not let you off. Dustless, Kun, Night Beauty 9 whispered softly, and her eyes were blurred. She deserved to be in the entertainment circle. The speed of her face change was absolutely unparalleled. This is bad. Do we need to leave early? Many people saw that we came with dustless. If we get involved, we will be unlucky. Murasame Rain's eyes were dripping, and she looked around without a trace. She took in the changes in the expressions of the crazy male audience. Everyone looked at Dustless with extreme hatred. This guy had offended the public. There is no doubt that Night Beauty 9 is intentional. The more she flirts with Dustless, the more excited these fans will be. If the situation is out of control, Dustless will be unlucky. It is this guy's fault for attracting bees and butterflies, but he doesn't know that dating should be stopped. Now, it's good to let him be unlucky once. Don't worry about it, just watch with peace of mind. Waving her hand, Itsuka Kotori ordered very seriously. Her crystal pupils were obviously jumping to watch a good show, waiting for Dustless to be unlucky. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2140. Murasame Rain was also extremely helpless about this, and at the same time, her eyes were locked on Kotori. Her clear eyes penetrated the depths of people's hearts, looking at Kotori without blinking. Is there something wrong? Kotori's eyes moved over, and she didn't dare to look at Murasame Rain's eyes. She was inexplicably panicked by her, and she had an illusion that the biggest secret in her heart was exposed. Commander, you can't be. Murasame Rain leaned close to Kotori's ear and asked carefully, Commander, these days, your behavior is very strange, especially after Dustless sealed your power. You don't like Dustless, do you? Like her? How can it be? Kotori was like a cat whose tail was stepped on. She stood up from her seat and said without thinking, all the men in the world are dead, I can barely consider that scum. Kotori, you. The rest of the group turned their heads to look at Itsuka Kotori with astonishment in their eyes. They were all wondering if she was mentally ill. Even if not, you don't have to be so excited, right? Murasame Rain saw Kotori, who was staring at her, and rolled her eyes. She was so abnormal because she cared. Anyway, it confirmed Murasame Rain's guess. Arrogant brat, I'd like to see what tricks you have up your sleeves. Bring it on. Blink your eyes and I'll be your slave from now on. Lowering his head to look at Night Beauty Jio's delicate little face, Wu Chen's eyes were bright, and his tone was carefree. Not only that, but Wu Chen also looked at Temptress Meijio with a sneer. At this moment, facing the girl's threat, not only was Wu Chen not afraid, but he also ridiculed Temptress Meijio even more, deliberately provoking her. You dare to be arrogant at this time, do you really think I'm a useless vase? Night Tempter Meijio was obviously not to be trifled with. Her beautiful eyes were full of fire. After taking a deep look at Wu Chen, she immediately looked at the audience with a smile. She looked arrogant, as if she had already seen the wonderful scene of crushing Wu Chen. Today, I have something to announce to everyone. Beauty Jio's eyes were shining, exuding a dazzling brilliance. Her whole body carried a huge momentum, and her gentle eyes gently swept the audience. Pointing at Dustless, Beauty Jio smiled cunningly. His name is Dustless. From today, he is my boyfriend. Please take care of him. These words caused the entire place to fall silent. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the Temptress Meijio. Countless sounds of heartbreak could be heard. Ah! My goddess was taken by a pig. Boyfriend? Are you kidding me? Who allowed that? I will never agree. I don't agree. That guy looks like a gigolo. Other than being handsome, what use does he have? The scene took advantage of the situation for a while, and then it caused a huge uproar. Countless male spectators glared at Wu Chen with fire in their eyes. They were filled with anger, and some of them even scolded him. Wu Chen was instantly condemned by everyone and became the center of the vortex. He was shot back and forth by countless people. Fighting with me, let's see what you can do now. Beauty Jio looked at Dustless triumphantly, and her small face was filled with a bright smile. Looking at the majestic Dustless, her whole face was filled with a sense of victory. Finally, I won once. Wu Chen remained silent, but in the eyes of Temptress Meijio, he was admitting defeat. Thinking of the previous suffocating experience, Temptress Meijio suddenly had a feeling of exaltation. This world was really too beautiful. He won a round? Who told you? Does this mean you won? Glancing at the Temptress Meijio indifferently, Wuchun calmly asked, based on what do you conclude that you've won? Ridiculous, I'm telling you now, the show has just begun. Stubborn. Hearing this, Beauty Gio snorted disapprovingly, and then stared at Dustless to see what magic weapon this guy had to turn the tables. While Beauty Gio stared at Dustless, Dustless also stared at her. He also took the initiative to close the distance with Beauty Gio and grabbed her white arm. What do you want to do? Beauty Gio asked nervously. Being stared at by Dustless's blazing eyes made her uncomfortable, but she pretended to be calm and resolutely refused to admit defeat. What do I want to do? Dustless smiled strangely and said, You just said that I'm your boyfriend, right? Yes. Beauty Gio nodded. Announcing that Dustless was her boyfriend in front of the fans could arouse the anger of male fans, and Dustless would not be able to have a peaceful life in the future. Heh heh, then I'll do what a boyfriend should do now. As soon as the voice fell, Dustless pulled Beauty Gio over in an instant. Under the gaze of countless pairs of stunned eyes, he fiercely blocked Beauty Gio's cheeks. Beauty Gio's eyes widened in an instant. She looked at Dustless in disbelief. She looked at Dustless as if she was looking at a ghost. This guy dared to do something out of line in front of her fans. Woo! After being sluggish for a while, Beauty Gio struggled frantically, but she was too weak to move at all. Her arm was tightly grasped and she could not resist at all. You smelly cockroach, how dare you grab me? Beauty Gio's heart was blown by a storm. Her eyes were fixed on Dustless, and her pretty face was flushed with anger. She never thought that Dustless was so bold that he dared to do something in front of her fans. Wasn't this bastard afraid of being cut into pieces by her fans? Damn it, a man dares to, Beauty Gio clenched her fists tightly. She couldn't wait to beat Dustless to death. However, she was tied up by Dustless at the moment and had no strength to do this kind of thing. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus more chapters, 3,000 rewards plus more chapters, 1,000 comments plus more chapters, 500 automatic subscriptions plus more chapters. Chapter 2141. Damn it, a man dares to, Temptress Meijio clenched her fists tightly. She couldn't wait to beat Dustless to death. However, she was bound by Dustless at the moment, and she had no strength to move Dustless. For a long time, Temptress Meijio hated men very much. There was a kind of hatred from the depths of her soul. Especially Dustless, this guy was really abominable. He even kissed her in public and took advantage of her openly. Dustless's behavior completely angered Temptress Meijio. What should I do? This is bad. Seeing Dustless blocking Temptress Meijio's lips, Murasame Rain was quite jealous. This was nothing more than verifying Dustless's catchphrase that often hung on his mouth, dying under the peony, being a ghost is also a romantic. He caused the trouble himself, he should solve it himself. Itsuka Kotori said. Although she did not show dissatisfaction, Murasame Rain and others were not ignorant in the emotional aspect. They all heard a deep resentment, which was obviously aimed at Dustless. Oh my god, my goddess. Kill him, you must kill him, is there anyone who is willing to ally with me? Temptress Meijio, what kind of magic potion did this guy give her? How could he do this kind of thing in public? Damn it, it must be an illusion, this is absolutely an illusion. Countless male audiences were heartbroken. They looked at Dustless and wanted to cry but had no tears. Their ferocious eyes were comparable to wolves, tigers, and leopards. Everyone's heart was ignited. Your fans are really crazy. In the face of countless eyes that wanted to eat him, Dustless was calm. His cheeks were as calm as still water, and his tone was light as if he was talking about someone else. You brat. Who gave you the courage to do this? Temptress Meijio's little face changed back and forth. It was extremely wonderful. She didn't expect Dustless to be so arrogant. He even dared to take advantage of her in front of her fans. Didn't he know the consequences of doing so? He could be cut into pieces at any time. Who gave me the courage? Do you still need to say it? You are so close to me. Dustless smiled disapprovingly. Didn't you say that I am your boyfriend? So what if I do this kind of thing? It's normal. Bastard, you clearly know that I said that on purpose, but you still. Tempting night beauty Jiao flew into a rage and glared at Wu Chen. Her beautiful eyes were spitting fire. She had a feeling of lifting a stone and dropping it on her own feet. Dustless. Temptress Meijio, she gritted her teeth when she mentioned the word girlfriend. Tress Meijio. Use whatever means you have, Wu Chen said casually. To you. To you. To Dustless Meijiless, and Meijiless to cry, s to cry. Ter Meijio Meijig to sos to her to cry. Woo! The sobbing sound was getting louder and louder, and it gradually spread to the audience. The scene that almost went berserk suddenly died down after Temptress Meijio stirred it up. There was dead silence. The goddess actually cried? Which brat did it? The male audience was furious. Temptress Meijio was the goddess in everyone's dream. Now someone actually made her cry. He should be put into a frying pan. This guy is really bad. He really knows how to play. Dustless frowned slightly. He took a deep look at Temptress Meijio and vaguely caught the pride in the girl's eyes. But don't regret it. Dustless muttered to himself in his heart. His frowning brows loosened. He had already guessed Temptress Meijio's evil idea. Fight with me? You are finished. Her white jade-like finger suddenly pointed at Dustless. Temptress Meijio cried with a sad face. She was extremely pitiful. She sobbed, he already has a girlfriend and asked me to be his mistress. He also said that I am ugly and said that I am not qualified to be his girlfriend. Woo-woo. In the end, she seemed to have touched the wound in her heart. Temptress Meijio's sobbing sound became louder and harsher. Ha! Hearing this, not only the audience was stunned, but even Wu Chen also looked at the tearful Temptress Meijio inconceivably. In his heart, he secretly said, "Damn, you're really an actress. You're invincible when you talk nonsense. When did I say that I want you to be a mistress? Kill this ungrateful brat. He is simply a scum. He is even worse than an animal. Yes, let's kill him together." After a moment of silence, the audience suddenly burst into an earth-shattering roar. They rushed over in a rage. Their ferocious appearance was comparable to ghosts. Everyone held a bench in their hands. They looked like they wanted to die together with Dustless. Ha ha ha, you are finished. Seeing this scene, Temptress Meijio wiped away her tears and looked at Dustless gloatingly. This bastard is finished this time. Is it? Wu Chen just glanced at the audience as if nothing had happened. Facing the enraged audience, he was not afraid. Instead, he took the initiative to take a few steps forward and looked at the male audience who rushed over with his eyes like torches. You want to kill them? Temptress Meijio frowned and then shook her head. If Dustless really did so, there would be no place for him in this world. Since you want to play so much, then I will accompany you to the end. Dustless looked around. His deep eyes suddenly burst out a wave of power, followed by an invisible impact in his body that swept out instantly. Boom boom boom. The invisible wave was extremely oppressive and swept over everyone. The crazy crowd stopped at the same time. Under the horrified gaze of Temptress Meijio, they fell to the ground in disbelief. What did you do? Temptress Meijio screamed and looked closely. Everyone was foaming at the mouth and rolling their eyes. In an instant, thousands of viewers fainted. I just used Haoshiku Haki to stun them. Facing the girl's questioning eyes, Dustless answered indifferently. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus more, 3,000 rewards plus more, 1,000 evaluation votes plus more, 500 automatic subscriptions plus more. Chapter 2142. She just fainted? Hearing Dustless's indifferent answer, Beauty Temptress's face that was not stained with dirt showed some confusion. She just fainted? Isn't it too easy to say? Thousands of spectators attacked without hesitation, showing no mercy at all. Don't waste time. Use all your means. Don't waste my time. Dustless waved his hand impatiently. It's boring to talk to you here. You bastard. Am I that annoying? Pay attention to your words and tone. Hearing this, the nameless fire in Temptress Meijio's heart rose straight up. Her bright eyes stared at Wu Chen. She was hit hard by his annoyed tone. All along, she had been loved by everyone. Especially after obtaining the power of an elf, Temptress Meijio's temperament became even more arrogant and she became an existence above others. But as the saying goes, everything is an exception. Dustless's attitude was full of disgust, which made Beauty Temptress feel quite shocked. She even suspected that there was something wrong with her beauty. If there's nothing else, I'm going back to sleep. Dustless coldly glanced at Beauty Temptress. He labeled her as boring in his heart and then left. You. Stop right there. Who allowed you to leave? Beauty Temptress was stunned. She quickly shouted, put down all my fans. How can I explain to them if you leave so casually? Fans? Hearing this, Dustless stopped. He turned his head and sneered at Beauty Temptress. Since you can use this group of idiots, why can't I attack them? What's more, you deliberately made things difficult for me. I'm already merciful that I didn't find trouble with you. Don't push it, little girl. I'm not going to talk nonsense with you. In short, you have to stay. Beauty Temptress asked herself if it was Dustless's fault for bickering. His sharp tongue made her speechless every time. However, what made Meijio lose face was that Dustless did not pay attention to her and left on his own. He did not even turn his head to look at Meijio. Despicable fellow, could it be that being in the same space as this old lady isn't as comfortable as sleeping with you? Temptress Meijio stomped her feet in anger. This feeling of being looked down upon caused her self-esteem to suffer a blow. Temptress Meijio had always been an existence surrounded by stars wherever she went. Now that she was ignored by Dustless, her heart was immediately filled with anger. Of course, there was also a hint of curiosity and confusion. Unlike the others, Knight Tempter Meijio could clearly feel that the way Dustless looked at her didn't have that kind of deep possessiveness. It was very normal and calm. To put it bluntly, it was as if he was looking at a man. Women were such unpredictable creatures. Sometimes if you took the initiative to pay attention to the other party, they might ignore you. But when you ignored them, they would feel extremely uncomfortable. This was the case for Beauty Temptress Meijio. She had always been praised to the sky, but now someone suddenly pulled her down and kicked her twice. Beauty Temptress Meijio was really disgusted, but at the same time, there was an indescribable special feeling. I'm just curious, Beauty Temptress Meijio comforted herself in her heart. At the same time, she glanced at Dustless gloomily. Seeing that this guy completely ignored her words, the spiritual power in her body slowly erupted. Boom boom boom. The hurricane-like spiritual power fluctuations swept across the audience. The already messy concert was even more unbearable at this moment. It was messy as if they had come to a second-hand furniture market. There were visible cracks on the seats. Immediately afterward, a pleasant song suddenly sounded. This clear and pleasant voice was very warm, like the sun in the cold winter. It made people want to relax and enjoy it. This chick doesn't accept a lesson at all. I just taught her a lesson. In such a short time, did she forget the pain? Dustless frowned. He clearly felt a special spiritual power hitting his mind, trying to control his thoughts. It's just that Dustless's spiritual power is too strong. This weak spiritual power has little impact on him, and it has no effect at all. He can deal with it calmly. Let's leave for now. Dustless shook his head. If he didn't have to, he really didn't want to bully a girl. Although he killed countless people, Dustless still has his own principles. As long as beauty temptress Meijio is obedient, Dustless doesn't mind letting her go. But now, it seems that his kindness was ignored by the other party. That's it for today. I'll take you to other places to play later. Dustless looked at Itsuka Kotori and others. When he used Haoshiku Haki to clear the area, he didn't target them. However, Itsuka Kotori and others didn't respond to Dustless. They just looked at beauty temptress Meijio with empty eyes, and their cheeks were dull. Seeing that Itsuka Kotori and others ignored him, Dustless looked at them carefully. He saw that all of them were still looking at beauty temptress Meijio with a very sincere expression. His face suddenly turned gloomy. You used your ability to control Toka and the others? Dustless clenched his fists suddenly. He didn't like to get angry, but some people always like to seek death. He. Your gloomy cheeks are wonderful. It's the most wonderful expression I've ever seen in my life. Hearing this, beauty temptress Meijio laughed out loud. The crisp and pleasant voice naturally evolved into a musical note, which is very pleasant to listen to. People with weak willpower will fall into it if they don't pay attention. Is that so? Dustless looked at beauty temptress Meijio faintly. Maybe it's really wonderful, but the price you have to pay for seeing this face is very heavy. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 evaluation votes plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2143. Is it? Dustless looked at temptress Meijio faintly, and his eyes emitted a cold hostility. Maybe it's really wonderful, but the price you have to pay for seeing this face is very heavy. When these words fell, the scene suddenly became extremely oppressive, and it was filled with an austere oppressive atmosphere. Unknowingly, it became extremely difficult to breathe. Dustless's silent eyes revealed a fierce light, and his ruthless eyes looked at temptress Meijio unscrupulously. To some extent, temptress Meijio had really touched Dustless's reverse scale. He hated this kind of person who threatened him the most in his life. He absolutely couldn't let it go easily, no matter who it was. Anyone can talk nonsense. Don't think that I will be afraid of you. Temptress Meijio looked at Dustless without fear. Perhaps because she was really angry, her proud cleavage swayed up and down, and the soul-stirring arc was wonderful and refreshing. However, the scene at the moment was extremely cold, and no one appreciated it. Although temptress Meijio and Dustless were tit for tat, her eyes were obviously evasive. Obviously, she lacked confidence and was very afraid of Dustless's strength. After all, she had suffered several big losses before, and it was inevitable that it left a shadow in her heart. All of you, go for me. Don't leave him alone. Beat this kid to death. I don't believe that he dares to fight back. Without nonsense, temptress Meijio waved her hand gently. Shixiang and others who were controlled trembled, and then they rushed to Dustless with empty eyes. Shoo shoo shoo. One after another, beautiful silhouettes rushed over and surrounded him from all directions. These people are your friends. I don't believe that you can do it. Temptress Meijio chuckled. Although Dustless gave people a cold feeling, she knew that Dustless cared about Shixiang and others from the bottom of his heart. Being able to accompany them to watch her concert explained everything. Therefore, temptress Meijio could conclude that Dustless would never hurt Shixiang and others, so she could only wait for death. Do you think you can defeat me by relying on them? This idea is too naive and ignorant. The mocking tone rang in her ears. Xiao Meijio was stunned for a moment before she looked over. What she saw was Dustless's sneering face. You have a sharp tongue. If you're a man, then kill them all for me to see. Temptress Meijio said with an ashen face. She was extremely angry and unhappy. She had always been a proud daughter of heaven. Now, Dustless dared to mock her. His attitude was extremely bad. Temptress Meijio's self-esteem was constantly shattered. Do you need to test whether I'm a man or not? Or have you seen it before? Dustless asked with a teasing look, "You have a nose and eyes, and your figure is not bad. If you want to have a memorable night with me, it's not impossible as long as you kowtow and beg me. In short, I have always been a very generous person." "Go to hell, you bastard." Tempting Night Beauty Jo was so depressed that she almost vomited blood. This bastard really didn't know how to speak. Who didn't have a nose and eyes? These words sounded like a compliment, but in fact, it was even worse than a curse. Moreover, this bastard was simply insatiable. There were too many people who had fantasized about her. Even if there were thousands of people lining up, Dustless wouldn't be her turn. However, this hateful bastard actually asked her to kowtow and beg him. Tempting Night Beauty Jo, she was about to explode. At the same time, 10 fragrances, and the others also surrounded them. Boom, boom, boom. A large scale of power fluctuations erupted from Dustless's body. It was almost materialized. Wave after wave, it was vast and endless. The scene was very oppressive and shocking. The high-density power suppressed people until they couldn't breathe. There was no doubt that Dustless definitely didn't intend to wait for death. Binding path number 61, 6-rod light prison. His finger gently pointed at 10 fragrances and the others. Several golden ribbons of light attacked from all directions, easily fixing them in place. Even though they were close to Dustless, it was difficult for them to move. It was as difficult as ascending to heaven to take half a step forward. Is there a mistake? He subdued a group of elves so easily? Could it be that he went easy on them? Tempting Night Beauty Jo looked at the scene in front of her in a daze. She subconsciously frowned. She was counting on 10 fragrances and the others to make things difficult for Dustless. Who would have thought that they were so weak that they were easily dealt with in the blink of an eye? Next is you. Since you like to court death, then I can't let you die. Have a good experience of what it means to be unable to live and unable to die. His gaze fell on Tempting Night Beauty Jo again. Dustless slowly walked over. With every small step he took, Tempting Night Beauty Jo's heart would sink a little. Sparkling and translucent sweat condensed on her hair. She felt powerless, as if the sky was falling down. Dustless's strength was obvious to all. She really didn't have much confidence in defeating Dustless. Am I going to admit defeat just like that? Tempting Night Beauty Jo's exquisite beautiful eyes stared at Dustless, who was slowly walking over. She couldn't help but shiver. Bow down? Or bow down to a man who has repeatedly despised and insulted me? It's better to kill her. Seeing Dustless's face, Tempting Night Beauty Jo was extremely depressed. Boom, boom, boom. Although her strength was not as good as Dustless, Tempting Night Beauty Jo's body also burst out with surging spiritual power. The vast ocean was endless, as majestic as the sea. There was no limit to it. Undoubtedly, Tempting Night Beauty Jo was also going all out. She had repeatedly offended and plotted against Dustless. She knew that after being captured alive, she would definitely be tortured by this guy. Tempting Night Beauty Jo hated men very much, and her temper was very arrogant. She had the temperament of a queen. How could she tolerate being Dustless's captive? Absolutely not allowed. A deathbed struggle? TSK, whether it is an elf or a human, this is an instinct. When facing danger, it is absolutely impossible to bow down and give up. Sensing the spiritual power fluctuation in Tempting Night Beauty Jo's body, Dustless smiled faintly and still walked over. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus more chapters, 3,000 rewards plus more chapters, 1,000 evaluation votes plus more chapters, 500 automatic subscriptions plus more chapters. Chapter 2144. Don't come over, or we'll fight to the death. Temptress Majo threatened. She had already unleashed her spiritual power and almost used all her strength, but she still couldn't stop Dustless's pace. His face was extremely relaxed, as if he was walking leisurely in the clouds. There was no resistance and he walked over gently. Hee, as I said before, don't overestimate yourself. With your level, you want to fight to the death with me? Naive little girl. The fish will die, but this net will not be broken. Dustless said slowly. At the same time, he glanced at the embarrassed temptress Magio and said coldly, as I said before, you will pay a heavy price. Let's start now. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. As his voice fell, Dustless disappeared like a ghost. What the hell, how can a mere human be so fast? Temptress Magio opened her eyes wide and looked around for traces of Dustless. She tried to capture Dustless's figure, but sadly, even though her eyes were sore and stinging, she couldn't find any trace of Dustless. Paw! A crisp sound suddenly spread out, and a strange numbness swept through her body in an instant. Temptress Magio blushed and turned her head to glare at Dustless angrily. She roared, you dare to hit my butt? Stinky hooligan, scum, you are wasting human resources by living. If I were you, I would find a place where there is no one around and hang myself. Very quickly, Xiao Magio reacted and said evil words. Hee, you continue to talk, I'll do it. As his voice fell, Dustless winked at Temptress Magio and smiled. You bastard. Temptress Magio was furious. Then, her thin lips opened slightly, and a pleasant song came from her throat, making people addicted. Boom boom boom. However, this heavenly song was extremely dangerous and contained a terrifying sound wave attack. The moment he heard the song, Dustless's mind roared. It was as if there was a time bomb buried in his body that suddenly exploded. Bang, bang, bang. Dustless's body was blasted into pieces by the sound wave. His perfectly fine body flew out like a fairy scattering flowers. However, what was intriguing was that when a person's body exploded, the debris that flew out should be bones and blood, but what floated out of Dustless's body was shiny light. Furthermore, what made Dustless most depressed was that in the blink of an eye, the splashing resplendent light gathered once again, filling up the original missing parts. Dustless's body was instantly repaired. Damn it. What kind of freak is this damned brat? Why does he have such an unheard of ability? He's just a stinky hooligan. Looking at the recovered Dustless, Temptress Magio stomped her feet. Her words were filled with jealousy. If only she had such a heaven-defying ability. You don't have a brain at all. Dustless sighed and said sympathetically, I told you before. I am a flash person who ate the flash fruit. All physics won't work. As you can see, even if you are lucky enough to attack me, it won't have the slightest effect. I will be restored without limit. You, Temptress Magio, didn't attack. Dustless's lazy tone seemed to be mocking her own weakness. This volcano suddenly erupted. Is your ability that great? If you are a man, then have a fair fight with me. Temptress Magio pouted. Her angry appearance was very flirtatious. Her towering cleavage swayed back and forth, almost bursting out of her dress. Gulp. Seeing this scene, even with Dustless's temperament, he couldn't help but stagnate. He immediately sighed. Some people are particularly eye-catching when they are angry, but it's still the same sentence. Whether I am a man or not, why don't you take off your clothes and let's try it? With a playful smile on his cheeks, Dustless's face was extremely thick. Such shameless words were said calmly. You are shameless. Temptress Magio was instantly embarrassed. Her snow-like face was covered with a sickly blush. Compared with Dustless, her face was too thin. Full of flaws. Gently glancing at Temptress Magio, Dustless once again turned into a stream of light and rushed out. He circled behind Temptress Magio with lightning speed and gently raised his big hand fell again. Paw. It was the same crisp sound as before. It lingered in the dead silent concert venue for a long time. It was accompanied by a burst of fragrance quietly spreading to every corner. Ah, bastard, I want to die with you. Temptress Magio was stunned at first. After a few seconds of being dumbfounded, she went berserk. She roared at the top of her voice. She didn't have the slightest demeanor of a lady. She was like a servant who had been wronged. There was no doubt that her violent temper was exposed. She turned around and slapped Dustless. As everyone knows, Temptress Majo is an out-and-out lesbian. Men are cockroaches in her eyes. She will feel disgusted even if they say a word. Now, she was humiliated by Dustless and spanked twice. Even a clay figurine would have a clay figurine, let alone Temptress Majo who hates men. Boom. It seemed like an ordinary slap, but it contained a great energy fluctuation. Under anger, Temptress Majo covered her palm with all her spiritual power. If ordinary people were slapped, they would die on the spot. At this moment, she was really murderous. Bang! Such a dangerous slap hit Dustless head-on. His body trembled slightly. This time, he didn't even use the Devil Fruit's elemental transformation ability. This bastard, after being stunned for a while, Temptress Majo's face turned green. She cursed secretly, "What is this bastard made of? Why is his skin as hard as a diamond? He is fine after being slapped." The slap hit Dustless, but nothing happened at all. Instead, Temptress Majo's arm trembled from the rebounding force. Her entire arm softened and was easily caught by Dustless. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2145. Let go of me, bastard. Being held tightly by Dustless, Temptress Majo almost vomited. She had goosebumps all over her body, and her face was full of shame and anger. It couldn't be helped. She hated men so much. It was like an instinct. She was fine at first, but when she was suddenly grabbed by Wu Qin, she inexplicably felt like vomiting. "Didn't I say that you will pay a heavy price?" Glancing at Temptress Majo, Dustless said in a very casual tone, provoking me, "If I don't leave a terrible memory for you, how can I survive in the future? I must let you live in my shadow for the rest of your life. What do you want?" She stared at Dustless while choking with sobs. At this moment, in the eyes of Temptress Majo, this handsome little face was extremely terrifying, more terrifying than a demon. "How about it? It's very simple." Dustless stared at the frightened Temptress Majo and chuckled, "You dare to control my people. How about this, from now on, you will be my shadow in the future." Shadow? Hearing this, Temptress Majo's little face froze. She looked at Dustless blankly, not understanding what this guy meant. The so-called shadow is naturally like a shadow following the body. In other words, from now on, you will be my slave. Dustless stretched out his tone, and at the same time, quietly observed the changes in Temptress Majo. Boom boom boom. Temptress Majo's body suddenly erupted with powerful spiritual power fluctuations. She gritted her teeth and tried her best to suppress her anger. "You want me to be your maid? Why don't you die?" But sadly, after enduring for a long time, Temptress Majo almost became a ninja turtle. In the end, she couldn't suppress the anger in her heart and couldn't help but roar out. Still not convinced? Seeing this, Dustless was suddenly happy. If Temptress Majo was willing to bow her head, he didn't mind being a gentleman. However, Temptress Majo was a blockhead, and he had to teach her a lesson. Paw! Another slap landed on alluring Night Beauty Joe's important part as a woman, and a bright red palm print appeared on it. Aya! Temptress Majo grimaced in pain. Tears welled up in the corners of her eyes as she glared angrily at Dustless. The tears that were about to flow out of her eyes were sucked back in by Temptress Majo. Her expression was stubborn as she angrily rubbed her buttocks. After being slapped by Dustless a few times, it was extremely painful. "If you have the guts, then kill me. What's the point of humiliating a girl?" Temptress Night Beauty said in a low voice. Her teeth were about to shatter. "Kill you? That's too kind." Dustless suddenly laughed. He was as cheap as he could be, at least in the eyes of the Temptress Majo. Gulp. Looking at the smirking Dustless, Temptress Majo's heart skipped a beat. She was very nervous and had a bad premonition. Since you don't know what's good for you, then I will. Staring at Temptress Magio's noble dress, Dustless grinned. His expression was as wretched as it could be. He was like the reincarnation of a pervert. A pair of big hands grabbed over. Crack. The exquisite dress was easily torn by Dustless, revealing her white skin. Temptress Magio suddenly felt a chill in her body. She looked down and saw that her cleavage, which made people feel ashamed of themselves, was exposed under Dustless's eyes. Stinking rogue. Temptress Magio was furious and slapped him. Bang. Dustless easily blocked her weak arm. His face immediately turned cold and his other hand hit out without hesitation. Paw. The majestic cleavage suddenly shook. It was so painful that Temptress Magio burst into tears. At the same time, her body also seemed to be electrocuted. All the strength in her body was drained. She fell down softly and fell into Dustless's arms. Ah, you are really a female rogue. You keep saying that you hate men, but now you take the initiative to throw yourself into my arms. Please, Temptress Magio, can't you be a little bit more reserved? I'm embarrassed. Dustless blinked his eyes. His expression was shy and embarrassed. You are a sinister villain. Temptress Magio's face turned green. Of course, she wanted to say goodbye to Dustless, but the slap just now had an inexplicable power, which drained all her strength. Her whole body was weak and soft in Dustless's arms. What's the matter? Why do I suddenly have no strength? Temptress Magio's eyes were blurred. She fell into Dustless's arms. She wanted to find a hole to drill into. She lost her face. However, this guy smells very good. Inadvertently exhaling, a simple and elegant faint fragrance came from Dustless's body into the ears and nose. It was very light, almost faint, but it really existed. It was like a poppy, which made people fascinated. It was the first time that Temptress Magio heard that a man's smell could be so good. No wonder that group of girls listened to him. The group of girls in Temptress Magio's mouth was naturally Nightblade God 10 Fragrance and others. Their power was sealed by Dustless. Their strength was extremely weak. Just now, they were unconsciously controlled. Temptress Magio, don't waste my time. What is your choice? Do you want to be my maid, or do you want to be thrown on the street by me? Don't you hate men? I will take off all your clothes and throw you into the pile of men. Showing a scary expression, Dustless scared the girl. Are you serious? Temptress Magio looked at Dustless in horror. The good impression of Dustless that she had with great difficulty disappeared without a trace in an instant. Woman, you are asking for a beating. If you don't agree to my conditions, I will throw you into the pile of men and live with a group of cockroaches. This is a new experience that you have never had before. Do you want to try it? Dustless said seriously. In fact, he was just deliberately scaring Temptress Magio. I promise you. From now on, I will be your servant. Gritting her teeth, Temptress Magio finally succumbed to Dustless's conditions. She did not dare to gamble. If Dustless really did that, her life would be over. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2146. I promise you that I will be your servant from now on. Gritting her teeth, tempting Night Magio finally succumbed to Dustless's conditions. She didn't dare to gamble. If Dustless really did that, her life would be over. The moment she agreed to Dustless's conditions, tempting Night Magio's eyes were empty and gloomy. It was as if her soul had been taken away, and she had turned into a walking corpse. Looking at Dustless in a daze, tempting Night Magio gradually recovered her strength. She broke free from Dustless's arms and stared at his handsome face in a daze. She never expected that one day, she would lower her proud head to a man. Even now, tempting Night Meijio still felt like she was in the clouds, as if everything was still an illusion. However, the tingling sensation from her buttocks told tempting Night Meijio that this wasn't a dream. It was useless to regret it. Dustless would retaliate even more fiercely. Why are you still standing there like a fool? Hurry up and release the ability to control 10 fragrances and the others. Really, your reaction is so slow. You're really like a piece of wood. Seeing tempting Night Meijio staring at him in a daze, Dustless scolded her in annoyance. You. Fine, I'll endure it. You're unreasonable. Taking a deep breath, tempting Night Meijio resisted the urge to vomit blood. Tempting Night Meijio released the ability to control Night Sword God, 10 fragrances, and the others. She only hoped to send this plague away as soon as possible. Dustless stood there for a while, and tempting Night Meijio felt stifled. She couldn't even breathe properly. What? What did we do just now? Strange, why am I here? I seem to remember that there was an extremely powerful energy that invaded my mind. As for what happened after that, I can't remember clearly. The girls' eyes regained their spirit. When they saw the light band that bound them, they discussed in confusion. At the same time, they looked at Dustless and tempting Night Meijio at the same time. Looks like it's a success, Murasame Ryunjin chuckled and looked carefully. She saw Night Temptress Meijio standing next to Dustless. Although her pretty face was ugly, she was sure that Dustless successfully took Night Temptress Meijio. Otherwise, this little girl would have already exploded. Night Temptress Meijio had always kept a distance from men. At present, she kept a short distance of 1 or 2 meters with Dustless. But, if I said that I successfully took down the Night Seducer Meijio, this favorability index is too strange. At the same time, Murasame Rain collected new information, the favorability of Night Tempter Meijio to Dustless, but what surprised Murasame Rain was that Dustless actually got Night Tempter Meijio, but the favorability of this arrogant girl to Dustless was 0. As expected of Dustless. You are indeed extraordinary and powerful. Seeing that Meijio was obedient but displeased, Murasame Rain could only give a thumbs up. Is everyone alright? Today's farce is over. Let's go home together. Walking to Itsuka Kotori and the others, Dustless also felt a burst of exhaustion. He could crush his enemies easily, but he couldn't deal with disobedient and stubborn women step by step. Dustless had lost a lot of brain cells because of this. You kissing me like this, it gives people the feeling that you are very happy, and you are tired? Itsuka Kotori grumbled. Her resentful tone made her sound like a resentful housewife. Dustless glanced at Itsuka Kotori. Her resentful gaze made him feel uncomfortable. Making out with this guy? Before Dustless spoke, Night Temptress Meijio couldn't help but jump out, then kill me. Yes. Wuchen also nodded in agreement and said without hesitation, who would be intimate with such a tigress? It's better to sleep. You. Hearing that, Night Temptress Meijio's mouth twitched, she picked up something and threw it at Dustless without thinking. Fortunately, Dustless dodged it, otherwise, his head would be bleeding. This bastard is really preposterous. Could it be that being intimate with me isn't as important as him sleeping? Is this asshole a man, or is there something wrong with his sexual orientation? Night Temptress Meijio cursed Dustless in her heart. Let's go back. After saying that, Wuchen took the lead to leave the dark and messy concert venue. He bathed in the warm sunshine again and felt refreshed. The cells in his body seemed to come alive in an instant. Itsuka Kotori and others followed behind Dustless. They kept chattering, which made Dustless roll his eyes and left alone. This is, however, before Dustless left for long, Dustless received a special message in his mind. TSK, that sickly girl Tokasaki Kurumi finally couldn't take it anymore. Looks like she's going to bow down to me. Dustless was pleased with himself. Tokasaki Kurumi had been trapped in the Kamui dimension for a while, living alone in a desolate world. No one talked to her, she was the only one in the entire dimension. But it was worth mentioning that other than Tokasaki Kurumi, Dustless also left a shadow clone to observe Tokasaki Kurumi's movements. The message just now came from the shadow clone. Tokisaki Kurumi couldn't take it anymore. She was on the verge of breaking down. Knight Temptress Meijio is obedient, and Tokisaki Kurumi is also quiet. These two troublesome opponents seem to have bowed down to me. This is a double blessing. Dustless quickened his pace and returned home as soon as possible, then released Tokisaki Kurumi and sealed her power with a kiss. Frankly speaking, after sealing Tokisaki Kurumi's power, Dustless could also use Tokisaki Kurumi's power. Dustless was actually quite interested in the engraving Emperor's power. Dustless was envious of such a powerful ability that could even allow him to travel back in time, and he longed to have it. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 reviews plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2147. Itsuka Kotori's house. Thinking of Tokisaki Kurumi's unhappy face, but she had no choice but to lower her head, Dustless felt an indescribable joy in his heart. Tokisaki Kurumi was extremely seductive, as dangerous as a poppy flower, but also irresistible. However, her personality was as stubborn as the seductress Meijio. Dustless knew that he didn't have the ability to conquer this thorny rose. After all, not everyone had the same protagonist aura as Itsuka Shido. That was why Dustless had spent a lot of effort to force them to lower their heads. Now that he finally had some progress, he could not help but feel relieved. Kamui. Dustless activated his ocular skill and the void in front of him distorted. He then jumped into it. The gloomy world was deathly still. There were no signs of life. The entire world was gray, just like the scene of the beginning of the world. As far as the eye could see, this world was filled with endless skyscrapers, but there wasn't a single human or living being. Even the air that entered the lungs was suffused with depression and coldness. It was undeniable that living in such a depressing environment was truly incomparably gloomy. After a long time, no matter who it was, they would be able to endure it. Unexpectedly, Wu Chen was no exception. Just think about it, if there was only one person in a world, wouldn't that be boring to death? Buzz buzz buzz, a series of ripples appeared in the sky. A young man with his hands behind his back slowly walked out of the ripples. There was a faint smile on his handsome face. Who else but Dustless could enter the Kamui dimension other than the trapped enemies? Miss Toshiaki Kurumi. You look really pathetic. Dustless lowered his head and looked at the ground. He quickly found Toshiaki Kurumi's trace and walked over to her. Bastard, seeing Dustless walking over, Toshiaki Kurumi cursed in her heart. If it were not for the difference in strength, she would not mind giving Dustless a good beating. Looking at her, Toshiaki Kurumi's eyes were gloomy. She looked like a patient who had just recovered from a serious illness. Her spirit was dispirited. Her white cheeks were also very dull. She looked very gloomy. This was all thanks to Dustless. After being locked up for so many days, Toshiaki Kurumi had been tormented by loneliness. Huff, seeing Dustless finally appear, Toshiaki Kurumi's eyes glowed with a strong desire to win. Let me out and I'll agree to all your conditions. From today onwards, I'll be your slave. I didn't force you. I'm a very democratic person. Dustless put on a kind face. But in Toshiaki Kurumi's eyes, you're a good person. Then I'm a saint. But, Dustless's tone suddenly changed. Since you've agreed to be my slave, I can't refuse. Naturally, I have to take in a poor homeless person like you. So, from today onwards, you're mine. If I tell you to go east, you have to go to the end of the world. Even if there's a mountain of swords and a sea of fire in front of you, you can't hesitate. Do you understand? What an annoying guy. Toshiaki Kurumi snorted in her heart. But on the surface, she had no choice but to agree. I swear, okay? From now on, I'll be Dustless's slave. I'll die a horrible death if I break my oath. As soon as she finished speaking, Toshiaki Kurumi looked at Dustless with her lustful eyes. She lowered her head in submission. Her watery eyes were full of flattery, as if she could agree to any of Dustless's conditions. At least you know what's good for you. Dustless glanced at Toshiaki Kurumi and said no more. He activated his eye skill again. Soon, the void in front of them twisted and a pitch-black hole appeared. Dustless took Toshiaki Kurumi into the hole and disappeared from Kamui world. We're finally back. But, why is it your house? Toshiaki Kurumi took a deep breath of fresh air. Her expression was indescribably comfortable. After being locked up for so long, she was about to go crazy. I'd like to ask that too. Itsuka Kotori was like an overturned jar of vinegar. She glared at Toshiaki Kurumi and asked in a serious tone, since when did you have another elf in your house? What's your relationship with her? Could it be that you've already conquered it? Dustless, you're really a Casanova. Itsuka Kotori said it nicely, but everyone could hear the sourness in her words. Not only Itsuka Kotori, but even Yusuke Toka and the others looked at Dustless with dissatisfaction. This guy is really a womanizer. What relationship? Can't you see it? You're so slow. Toshiaki Kurumi returned to her demonic nature and approached Dustless. Her next move shocked everyone. Mwah. In a flash, Toshiaki Kurumi tiptoed and left a kiss on Dustless's cheek. She looked at Itsuka Kotori and said with a smile, now do you know what our relationship is? Little mistress. From now on, I'm Masters. Master? What's your relationship? Itsuka Kotori wasn't the only one who was angry. Everyone glared at Toshiaki Kurumi and cursed her for being the reincarnation of a vixen. She was too shameless, and the word master made their imaginations run wild. However, most of them glared at Dustless with hatred. What does it have to do with me? I didn't say anything. You guys are too naive. Can't you see that Toshiaki Kurumi is trying to take revenge on me? Dustless looked at the girls who were gobbling up the food and felt innocent. He looked at Toshiaki Kurumi and saw her gloating expression. He knew that she did it on purpose. Itsuka Kotori and the others were all jealous. Toshiaki Kurumi used their innocent thoughts to her advantage. For example, she kissed Dustless to make them jealous. Chapter 2148. Dustless felt wronged when he saw the greedy eyes of the girls. He glanced at Tokisaki Kurumi and saw her gloating expression. He knew that she did it on purpose. Itsuka Kotori and the rest were all jealous, and Tokisaki Kurumi made use of their pure thoughts. For example, kissing Wu-Chen just now was to get rid of these jealous people. Needless to say, Tokisaki Kurumi was very smart. She winked at Wu-Chen, flirted with him, and purposely straightened her body. At the same time, she looked at Itsuka Kotori provocatively. Her mocking gaze was clearly saying, "Don't be envious of me, you airport runway. Don't get carried away." Itsuka Kotori's expression changed. She glared at Tokisaki Kurumi and snorted proudly. "I'm still young. When I grow up, my body will make you feel ashamed." But when she said that, Itsuka Kotori didn't sound confident. She wasn't sure what would happen in the future. She was just bickering. How could an outsider like Tokisaki Kurumi be so arrogant? She couldn't tolerate it. It's all your fault for bringing back such a jinx. She glared at Wu-Chen with an unfriendly gaze. Itsuka Kotori pushed all the responsibility to him. If it wasn't for him being a busybody and bringing Tokisaki Kurumi back, this wouldn't have happened. What does it have to do with me? Didn't you ask me to conquer the elves? Now you're blaming me. Dustless rolled his eyes when he saw Itsuka Kotori's glare. At the same time, he glared at Tokisaki Kurumi. He knew that she did it on purpose to make everyone angry. Ha ha ha, Tokisaki Kurumi suddenly chuckled. She stared at Wu-Chen as if she had discovered a new continent. She didn't care about the disgust in the eyes of the people around her. I seem to have discovered your weakness. You don't seem to be able to do anything against them. Dustless looked at Tokisaki Kurumi as if he was an idiot. He couldn't be bothered to waste his breath on her. Tokasaki Kurumi had sneakily kissed him on the cheek, but she didn't seal her power. This meant that Tokasaki Kurumi didn't have a good impression of Dustless. It was unrealistic for him to obtain her power. Tokasaki Kurumi's impression of you is the same as seducing Meijyo. They're both 0. Rain Murasame came over. Her eyes were filled with confusion. You used seducing Meijyo to deal with Tokasaki Kurumi? More or less. Wuchen nodded and immediately told Murasame Rain all the cause of everything, including the secret of Kamui, space imprisoning Shikaki Kurumi. No wonder her impression of you is 0. After a while, Murasame Ling-in suddenly understood and immediately smiled bitterly. To be honest, you are really a freak. They obviously hate you very much, but you use means to threaten them, and they are all very obedient. In addition to dating, this is also another shortcut to conquer the elves. Bullshit shortcut. It's all because I'm strong. Dustless snorted and said disapprovingly, if one day I become weak, Tokasaki Kurumi will definitely kill me, cut me into 8 pieces, and whip my corpse. Seducing Meijyo will probably do the same. The reason why they lowered their heads was because of Dustless's strength. You know yourself well. Rain Murasame laughed and didn't deny it. After all, it was a fact. If Tokasaki Kurumi and seducing Meijyo really had the means to deal with Dustless, they definitely wouldn't let him go easily. However, it's a pity that they won't have the chance to suppress me in this life. They are destined to crawl under my feet obediently. Dustless stared at Tokasaki Kurumi for a while and immediately went upstairs to sleep. He completely ignored Tokasaki Kurumi and Tokasaki Kurumi who were arguing. No matter what, as long as they don't fight, they can do whatever they want. At the same time, in another direction. What an amazing guy. Even that Yuri girl was tamed? If this continues, we won't be able to do anything. That guy will capture all the elves in one fell swoop. In the DM company, Isaac Ray Pelham Wiskett, who was one of the company's top executives, looked down at the skyscrapers outside the window. He, who always looked confident, frowned deeply at this moment. His face was full of confusion. Until now, he still hadn't figured out what kind of person Wu Chen was and why he was so heaven-defying. His strength was unprecedentedly strong. Even the elf was crushed and subdued. Even the most difficult seducer Meijyo lowered her arrogant head at this moment. He's indeed very strange. The blonde beauty standing beside Isaac Ray Pelham Wiskett was Irene, who had a grudge with Dustless a while ago. She was also quite surprised. After all, seducing Meijyo was the most difficult Yuri to deal with, but she was still defeated by Dustless and lowered her arrogant head obediently. Even though they were enemies, Irene couldn't help but admire Dustless. You think that guy is amazing, don't you? At some point, Isaac Ray Pelham Wiskett had begun to stare at Ellen, and his bottomless eyes were suffused with a terrible oily light. No, no. That guy is just using some despicable and boring methods. How can he be compared to him? Irene felt uncomfortable being stared at. She quickly denied it loudly. No matter what, let's not care about other things. First, we have to deal with the problem of the princess. I remember Dustless named her Yuri Toka, right? It's a nice name, but it's a pity. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 reviews plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2149. No matter what, let's not care about anything else. First, we have to deal with the problem of the princess. I remember Dustless named her Nightblade God 10 Fragrances, right? It's a good name, but it's a pity. Isaac Ray Pelham Westcott muttered to himself. His gaze was deep as he stared at the tall buildings in the distance. His calm gaze suddenly revealed a monstrous ambition. If possible, it's best to capture that Dustless guy as well. Pfft. Hearing this, Irene spat out all the hot water she drank. Her expression was extremely awkward. What's the problem? Or did I say something wrong? Isaac Ray Pelham Wiskett frowned and said in an unfriendly tone. His tone was very gloomy and cold. No, no. Realizing that she had lost her composure, Irene quickly apologized awkwardly. It's just that my stomach hasn't been feeling well recently. I'm feeling a little nauseous, is that so? After taking a deep look at Irene, Isaac Ray Pelham Wiskett didn't bother to continue thinking about this issue. He just put his hands in his trouser pockets, and his gaze was incomparably distant. That clear gaze seemed to be able to hide from him. Phew, seeing that the shrewd and terrifying man in front of her was not acting strangely, Irene heaved a sigh of relief. Her current situation was like living with a king was like living with a tiger. She could not guess what Isaac Ray Pelham Wiskett was thinking. Of course, there was also a unique pressure, the fear of a superior. The reason why she spat out the water just now was because Irene felt that Westcott's thoughts were too naive. Was Dustless someone that could be captured just because he wanted to? It was not that simple. To put it bluntly, when facing Dustless, Irene did not have the slightest confidence. Not to mention capturing Dustless alive, it would be a blessing from the heavens if she was not captured alive. Please don't ask me to deal with that damn pervert. Thinking of how terrifying Dustless was, Irene could not help but shiver. She could not help but pray in her heart. She really did not want to fight with Dustless. She was not a match for him at all. Or to put it bluntly, it was suicide. Irene. I have something for you to do. At the same time, Westcott suddenly turned around and stared at Irene. His gaze was so bright that it could melt a person. Don't tell me, he wants me to deal with Dustless. The corners of Irene's mouth twitched a few times, but she could only bite the bullet and say, Please speak, Your Excellency. I'll leave the task of dealing with Yedao Shintoxiang and Dustless to you. Don't disappoint me. Westcott said in a serious tone. His expression was meticulous and it was obvious that he wasn't joking. Finally, he instructed, Remember, you must capture the two of them. That's easy for you to say. One of them is an elf, and the other's strength is unfathomable. At the very least, he's stronger than the elves. Do you think I'm a god? As Weiscott's subordinate, it was her duty to take care of Dustless and the elf. However, Dustless was too strong, so strong that she couldn't handle him. I'll do my best. Looking at Westcott's eyes, Irene sighed and could only grit her teeth and agree. Very well, I hope you succeed. Westcott revealed a gratified smile and gave her an encouraging look. Don't disappoint me, Irene. Irene fell silent and nodded. Since there was no way out, she could only walk this path to the end. Thinking of this, Irene's unfocused gaze gradually became firm. Even though she knew that Westcott was pushing her into a fire pit, Irene chose to carry out the task without hesitation. After all, this was the meaning of her existence. It was also time for her to show her worth. The sky gradually turned dark. Cold winds swept across the vast land. Tonight's night was especially bleak. Even the moon was very blurry, hiding in the clouds as if it was hiding from something. From the day until now, Toka and the rest had been mocking Toshiaki Kurumi. They were like fire and water, staring at each other whenever they met. However, Toshiaki Kurumi was indeed Toshiaki Kurumi. She was indeed different from the rest. She didn't fall into a disadvantageous position when facing off against the girls. If it weren't for Dustless suppressing her, they would have already started fighting. Bang! 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 The peaceful night was suddenly filled with the sound of things being smashed. It was extremely messy, and one could even hear the sound of shouting. It's already midnight. Are they still quarreling? Young people are really energetic. Dustless popped his head out from under the blanket and was speechless. Toshiaki and the rest could be considered to have set a record by quarreling for a few hours. Especially now, they didn't show any signs of stopping. Instead, they were getting more and more intense. It was truly admirable. Forget it. Let's go and persuade them. Dustless put on his slippers. It was the middle of the night, and he couldn't sleep because of their quarreling. Moreover, Toshiaki Kurumi's spiritual power was not sealed yet. It would be too late for regrets if she got angry and did something out of line. Was it an illusion? Suddenly, Dustless turned his head and stared at the dark window. The bright moonlight was clearly visible. In that instant, he felt an unfamiliar aura. "Don't come over. Go away or I'll beat you to death." However, after a few seconds, the screams of the Night Blade God 10 fragrances resounded throughout the area. It wasn't an illusion. There really is an intruder. How bold. Dustless quickened his pace and quickly walked towards the room of the Saber God 10 fragrances. He had already guessed who this mysterious intruder was. Bang! He kicked open the door and a familiar figure came into view. "Irene, it's really you. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates." Chapter 2150. Have I been discovered? Seeing Dustless's figure, Irene could not help but feel guilty and had a headache. The owner of the indifferent gaze in front of her was just too powerful. He was so powerful that she could not handle him. He was so powerful that he could kill her at any time without breaking a sweat. "Dustless, save me. Beat this bad woman away." Night Sword God 10 Fragrance, who was restrained by Irene, hurriedly shouted. At this moment, she was only wearing simple pajamas. She was completely restrained by Irene and could not move. Night Sword God 10 Fragrance looked at Dustless pitifully. She felt very wronged. "Let her go, Irene." Dustless looked at Irene indifferently. His tone was calm and there was no trace of anger. It was as if he was narrating an extremely ordinary matter. "You. Watch your tone. Don't talk to me like you're my boss." Irene frowned slightly and looked at Dustless with a rather unhappy expression. His seemingly calm tone contained a sense of supremacy. To put it simply, it was an order to Irene. "I'm sorry, I can't accept this. This is an order from above. I'm just carrying out my mission. If you don't want to be my enemy, then quickly disappear from my sight." Irene said expressionlessly. She pretended to be calm on the surface, but her heart was extremely bitter. She only wanted to take 10 fragrance away without anyone knowing. However, the latter violently resisted. Even if her power was sealed, the commotion caused was rather big. In the end, it still alarmed Dustless. Sigh, what a foolish woman. After staring at Irene for a while, Dustless suddenly sighed and asked, "You clearly know that you are no match for me, yet you still dare to challenge me. The person who asked you to carry out the order is obviously pushing you into the fire pit. The most ridiculous thing is that a foolish woman like you still accepted this kind of mission. How foolish and ignorant. So what? There are some things that I don't have a choice in." Irene's eyes dimmed slightly. From a certain perspective, Wilcott was indirectly asking her to commit suicide. After all, challenging Dustless was equivalent to courting death. What a foolish woman. Seeing Irene's stubborn look, Dustless gently shook his head and said seriously, "Miss Irene, let go. You can't take 10 fragrances away." "Really?" Hearing this, Irene smiled confidently and suddenly locked Toka's throat. "Dustless, I know you're very powerful, but if you don't want this girl to die, then get out of my way. In other words, are you threatening me?" Narrowing his eyes, Dustless's eyes flickered with an ominous light. "Since you're threatening me, then don't blame me for being ruthless." So. As soon as he finished speaking, Silver's body suddenly disappeared, leaving only a dazzling flash. Despicable fellow. Seeing this, Irene's mouth twitched violently. Seeing that Dustless had disappeared and the entire room was left with a sky full of light, she immediately grabbed Night Sword God 10 fragrances and meticulously observed the changes in her surroundings. She looked behind her from time to time and looked to her left and right. Her suspicious look was rather comical. It was hard to imagine that this was the world's #1 magician. What ability is this? After carefully sensing for a while, Irene's expression changed drastically. She was sure that Dustless was in this room, but the strange thing was that other than the sky full of light, there was no one else who could see it. This was like the enemy was right in front of you, but you couldn't find him no matter how hard you tried. The world's #1 magician. Although your strength is weak, your intuition as a woman is praiseworthy. A faint ripple appeared in the void, followed by Dustless's cold voice. Just as Irene had guessed, Dustless was in this room at the moment, but Irene was helpless because she couldn't capture Dustless's physical body at all. Pretending to be mysterious, "Come out if you're a man," Irene shouted coldly, trying to anger Dustless. "You're definitely the most cowardly man I've ever seen, too useless." Hee. Unexpectedly, Dustless wasn't angry, instead he laughed strangely. "Seductive beauty Jo also said this to me. She once asked me if I was a man, and my answer was, 'Do you need to personally experience whether I'm a man or not?' What about you now? Irene? You're shameless." Hearing this, Irene's face turned red. She didn't expect that Dustless, who usually looked like a refined and well-behaved person, would become the reincarnation of a pervert at this moment. The meaning behind his words was that he wanted Irene to use her body to prove whether Dustless was a man or not. "Although I've killed countless people, I still have a bottom line. Those who are obedient and tactful, I don't mind showing mercy to them, but if they're blindly ignorant, then don't blame me for being ruthless." The emptiness in the room flickered, followed by Dustless's voice. Could it be? Carefully looking at the floating light, Irene guessed. Could it be that these photons are Dustless? Damn it, how am I supposed to attack him? He doesn't even have a physical body. That Way Court fellow really sent me to my death. Although the enemy was close at hand, he didn't even have a physical body. How was she supposed to fight? "How about this, Irene? You rely on me, and I'll kill the man who instigated you to capture 10 fragrance, and from then on, you'll be mine," Dustless instigated with a smirk. "You know very well that Way Court is just a simple human. There's nothing special about him that's worth pursuing. If you rely on me, your future will be bright, and you'll be able to see a bigger world." Anyway, there was a lot of space in the system, and with Irene, Dustless could afford to raise her. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2151. Rely on you? Hearing this, a bright light flashed across Irene's eyes. It was as fast as lightning, disappearing in less than a second. She's really moved. I told you, as long as she has ambition, as long as she's ambitious, she'll be able to see how special I am. Relying on me is just a matter of benefits. Even though the light in Irene's eyes disappeared in an instant, Dustless saw it clearly. He immediately understood that Irene was moved. However, this was normal. After all, Way Court was just a human. No matter how great his achievements were in the future, they were already fixed. On the other hand, Dustless had a mysterious background and was unrivaled in strength. Clearly, he had a better future. Secondly, Way Court had sent Irene to challenge Dustless. She knew that she would be crushed, but she was still sent to her death. Irene's heart was already somewhat conflicted. That's right, rely on me. A fine bird chooses a fine tree to nest in. You can choose for yourself. Dustless's mouth was as sweet as honey. He enticingly said, "What Way Court can give you, I can also give you. What he can't give you, I can also give you. Why should I believe you?" Although she was somewhat moved, Irene was still somewhat hesitant. Dustless wanted to gain something without risking anything. There was no way he could fool her with an empty promise. Why? Because of this. Dustless looked at Irene with disdain and clenched his fists. He raised his voice. "Because I'm stronger than you, that's all." Nonsense. In the end, you're still trying to trick me into killing Way Court. Irene coldly snorted. She grabbed Toka tightly and looked at Dustless as if she was facing a great enemy. Bad woman, Dustless has no reason to lie to you. Toka also took the opportunity to speak. He said seriously, Dustless was the one who took me in back then. He's very good to me. There's no reason to lie to you, nor is there a reason. Dustless had accompanied Yedao God Toka to go shopping, go on dates, go to the movies. Especially when he bought all kinds of delicious food for free. That's because you're too stupid and too naive. Don't treat everyone as a foodie like you. Irene looked at Toka disapprovingly. Dustless was able to conquer Toka with just food. This only meant that she was too naive and could eat too much. After wasting half a day of my time, you still don't understand. Dustless realized that Irene was still on guard against him. The gentleness on his face gradually disappeared. Since you don't listen to me, I can only use my strength to trample you. Swish. 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 As soon as he finished speaking, the sharp sound of something breaking through the air resounded through the entire house. In an instant, Nightblade God Toxiang seemed to have been invaded by the sun. The bright light was extremely dazzling. Countless rays of light converged and emitted a scorching light. So dazzling. Irene quickly closed her eyes. If she looked at the ball of light for one more second, her eyes would be blinded. The moment Irene closed her eyes, a black shadow suddenly appeared in front of her. It directly pushed Irene's arm away and snatched Nightblade God Toka away. Damn it! Realizing that she was empty-handed and that Nightblade God Toka was suddenly snatched away by Dustless, Irene immediately lowered her head and cursed. She suddenly opened her eyes and endured the discomfort in her eyes. Her gaze was locked on Dustless, who was close at hand. In just a moment, the equipment of AST members appeared on her body. Her equipment was different from those of Liaozi Under the Sun, Tokichi Origami, and the others. She also held a sharp beam saber in her hand. A rare display device. Staring at the imposing Irene, who was glaring at him with hostility, Dustless smiled carelessly. But if you think that this kind of scrap metal can deal with me, it only shows that you're too naive. Scrap metal? Hearing this, Irene's little face darkened. She was hit hard by Dustless's words. The display device she used was very different from the display devices used by AST members. It was more powerful and designed in more areas. It was much more advanced than the display devices of Tokichi Origami and the others. But at this moment, it became the scrap metal in Dustless's mouth. This was naked slander and disdain. You'll regret this. Irene's little face changed dramatically. She held the beam saber in her hand and slashed horizontally. Her speed was extremely fast. In just a blink of an eye, the beam saber held by Irene hit Dustless's head. Poochie. Dustless's whole body was suddenly split into two. It was easily split into two by the beam saber. This disgusting ability again. Don't tell me there's no flaw. Witnessing Dustless being instantly killed, Irene wasn't happy at all. Dustless, who had been split in half, only turned into a sparkling photon. Then, he was perfectly restored to his original state. That hateful face was restored once again. You're too weak. Dustless said softly. His tone was very light, but when it fell on Irene's ears, it was as heavy as Mount Tai. He mocked her for being a frog at the bottom of a well. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. In anger, Irene once again slashed the beam saber at Dustless. Clang clang. This time, Dustless obviously did not want to continue playing house with Irene. Seeing the beam saber coming at him, he calmly reached out and grabbed it. His big hand was hit by the beam saber and made a crisp roar. It was like hitting steel. Bright sparks flashed in an instant. Why is this guy's hand so hard? Ai Lian looked at Wu Chen in astonishment. She stared at his fair right hand, which was holding the beam saber calmly. He was safe and sound. Nothing happened to him at all. Ka. Dustless exerted a little force. The beam saber in his hands suddenly had cracks visible to the naked eye on its surface. The cracks spread to the entire blade at an extremely fast speed. How strong is this damn pervert? He actually crushed my weapon with his bare hands? Irene looked at Dustless in a daze. Her gaze was as if she was looking at a monster. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. You're tuning into the Dreamy Love Stories YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.